Hello and welcome back. Today's video is going to be the eyeshadow palette tag. This was created by Samantha March and Ali Glines. I will link them in the description box. A lot of people have been doing this video. They based it off a tag that was going around TikTok, and also this palette tag was also going around Instagram a couple months ago, and I actually did do it on Instagram at that time. I wasn't sure if I was going to film this video because I did do a similar tag on Instagram, and I also did recently rank all of my eyeshadow palettes. If you want to see that, I will link it in the description box. But I've had a lot of fun watching so many people do this tag, so I thought, all right, I'll go ahead and do it because I love eyeshadow palettes. It is one of my favorite makeup products ever. And yeah, like I said, if you want to see my entire palette collection, I'll link that in the description box, and let's get into this video. All right, the first question is show your newest palette, and I talked about this in a recent video. I bought the Viseart Warm Mattes. I bought this at the end of May, and I did get it on sale, 20% off on the Viseart website. It is a warm neutral palette. It is not unique at all. However, this formula is so nice. Some of the best matte eyeshadows I've tried. I only paid $64, which considering full price is $80. I actually think that's a pretty good deal, and I'm really happy with my purchase. And this was my first time ever trying Viseart. The next question is your oldest palette, and I gotta say I'm not 100% sure because I really cannot remember when I bought things exactly. I think this is my oldest palette, which is not that old. It is 2.5 years. This is the Saharan 2 by Juvia's Place. I did a huge decluttering spree in 2017, 2018, and I got rid of most of my makeup collection. I definitely went a little bit overboard, got overly into decluttering. So yeah, that's why I don't have a whole lot of other older palettes, but this is still one of my favorites by Juvia's, and Juvia's is still one of my favorite eyeshadow brands ever. This is one of their more neutral palettes. There's a lot of warm tones and then the 2 pops of blue. This is gorgeous. This palette is fantastic. They do still have it. It costs $20, and yes, this formula is fantastic. The next question is show your most expensive palette, and that is definitely the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. This costs $129. I paid full price for this, and I really love it. I've talked about this palette so much on my channel. This formula is amazing, and I don't have a ton of high-end luxury brands in my collection, but I'm definitely getting more into it. I do love this palette, and I have a few things from Pat McGrath that I absolutely love. So I'm definitely kind of getting a bit more into luxury makeup. I definitely was very hesitant to do that because yes, it is very expensive, and she has palettes that are even more expensive than this. She has palettes that are $240, which is so much money, although I'm still tempted to buy one. But again, I'm like, whoa, that's a crazy amount of money. But this, I think, to me was worth the $129, and I absolutely love it. And then for most affordable palette, I'm saying what a lot of people have said, the e.l.f. Bite Size palettes. These are only $3. I don't have any other palettes that are as cheap as these. This is one called Truffles, and I think these are fine. I mean, they're definitely worth $3, but I know a lot of people are comparing this to Natasha Denona and other high-end brands, and I don't think they're that good. But they're good, they're fine, not amazing, you know, but for only $3, I really can't complain too much. The next question is show your everyday palette, and I don't really have one per se because on a daily basis, for example, going to work, I use my Pan That palette, or I use other palettes that are currently in Project Pans. So of course it depends on what's in Project Pans that I'm going to use on an everyday basis. I will link my Pan That palette playlist in the description box if you're interested in seeing that. So I just kind of picked a palette that if I wasn't doing the project panning, the type of palette that I would wear on an everyday basis, and that would be the Going Coconuts by ColourPop. This is just a really nice palette. You know, it has some neutral, warm matte shades, some shimmers. So yeah, I think if I had to pick a palette to wear on an everyday basis, it definitely would be something similar to this. This one is really nice, and it's only $12, and I really do love the ColourPop formula. It's one of my favorite eyeshadow formulas overall as well. Next up is show your most colorful eyeshadow palette, and I actually own a lot. I have a lot of rainbow palettes, and I've done a video where I ranked all of my rainbow eyeshadow palettes. For this, I went with the Ace Beauté Slice of Paradise because this probably is my favorite rainbow palette in my collection. I have Pan on it, and it's so beautiful. I really do like these colors. I like the formula. They blend very well. The shimmer shades definitely require a wet brush. Otherwise, they are a bit crumbly, but with a wet brush, these look like liquid metal. And yeah, I love this rainbow palette. Like I said, I have quite a few other rainbow palettes in my collection, and I do love wearing colorful eyeshadow. Today, I'm wearing a very neutral look, but a lot of days I do love to wear color. Next up is show your smallest palette, and the e.l.f. Bite Size probably is, but I decided to go with this. It's only slightly bigger. Here, let me actually show you a comparison. I mean, yeah, this is only slightly bigger. This is the Natasha Denona Mini Nude. I really do like this one. I've said before, I like the Natasha Denona formula, and this is my most used out of my small eyeshadow palettes. Again, warm neutrals, but her mattes blend like a dream. And these shimmers are so foiled and gorgeous. Again, they do require a wet brush, but they just look amazing with that and blend out so well. I love the Natasha Denona formula, and I definitely want to try more of her palettes. Next up is show us your largest palette, and definitely the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. I feel like a lot of people picked Morphe palettes for this because they are ginormous. I really don't love massive eyeshadow palettes. I do really like this palette though. I think it is very good quality, and yes, I enjoy quite a bit. It's a lot of warm neutrals, but I've talked about this palette a lot in that I do think there are quite a few repeat shades. So if they had cut some of those out, they could have made it smaller, which I would have much preferred. I don't buy big palettes like this anymore. This is pretty much the only one I have left in my collection. The other larger palette I have is the ColourPop So Jaded palette, but even that one is only like this big compared to this one. So it's actually significantly smaller than this. But yeah, I pretty much do not purchase huge palettes anymore. My ideal size is about a 10 to maybe 20 eyeshadow palette max. That's kind of, you know, my favorite, but I actually really like the quality of this one. The next question is show us your palette with the best memory attached to it. And I don't know that I really have a lot that I can think of. I did decide to go with the Tarte Toasted. As far as on my actual wedding day, I actually wore single eyeshadows. I wore ColourPop Soft Core and Anastasia Pink Champagne all over the lid, in case anybody cares. So I didn't even actually wear a palette on my actual wedding day, but this is the palette I took on a trip earlier this year. We went to India to see my husband's family for 2 weeks, and it's the only palette I brought, and yeah, it was a really good time, and we actually did go to a wedding while there, so I did wear this to the wedding and a lot of other family events, and yeah, it was a great time, and I gotta say, I truly fell in love with this palette on that trip because it's a really just good standard palette. It's a lot of warm tone shades, but the mattes blend well, the shimmers are beautiful, and I found that I could do pretty intense smoky looks and also very natural everyday looks with it. So it turned out to be a really nice palette to use and travel with. Next question is show us a palette that is worth the hype. And I'm gonna say Pat McGrath. This is the Mothership 2 palette, and when I first got this, I thought, okay, this is good, but you know, I don't know that it's worth $125, but the more I have used it, I've really fallen in love with this, and I do think that her formula is unique. It is really something different, and I want to get more of her palettes. I do have 2 of the small palettes, the Mini Eye Ecstasy palettes, but I don't have any of these other larger ones that cost $125. I gotta say, it is also an experience. I mean, this packaging is so luxurious. It's really heavy. I mean, it's actually a little bit hard to store, which, you know, is not my favorite. And it's very heavy. I mean, I definitely would not be taking this anywhere. However, I think it is a unique formula, and there is a nice luxury experience about using something this fancy. The next question is show us a palette that is not worth the hype. And sadly, I don't really think the Fenty Snap Shadows are worth the hype. I like them and they are nice, and I love the brand Fenty overall, but I don't know. I think for $25, you could get a lot more bang for your buck. I mean, you get 6 small eyeshadows. This is the one that is called Cool Neutral. And these 2 colors, I mean, they look nearly identical. You know, it's a nice formula. It's beautiful. It blends well. It's pigmented, but I just think for $25 you could get a lot more. I mean, you could get 2 ColourPop palettes and you'd have more variety and the quality would be pretty similar in my opinion. Next up is a favorite palette by a favorite brand. And in the last few months, one of my favorite brands is Pat McGrath. I really love with her products, especially the eyeshadows. And I think my favorite one is actually this one. This is the Mini Eye Ecstasy Sublime palette. The packaging is a little cheapy on this, but I do like that it is small and compact. These palettes are $28. She has this one and then a more colorful one. I've reviewed them both on my channel and I think they are great. The eyeshadow quality is amazing, and I do like that she kept the quality the same even though the packaging is cheaper and the price point is lower. I like when brands do that, and this is a gorgeous palette. These colors are so pretty and very foiled and high quality. This is the shade All Over My Lid, and I did not even spray my brush and it looks so foiled and metallic. You know, this is all metallic and shimmer shades. There's not really a true matte eyeshadow in here. You know, so it's not a palette that I use alone, but I don't mind combining palettes. And yes, I love Pat McGrath Labs, and this is probably my favorite palette from her that I own. I mean, I only own 3. I own the other mini one and then that mothership one I just showed you. But again, I want to try more. This is a great way to try her brand though for a lower price point if you are interested. The next question is your most used eyeshadow palette, and I definitely think that that is the Too Faced Chocolate Bar for me, because this was my Pan That palette last year, and I'm pretty sure I used a shade from this almost every single day. I was very, very dedicated to it, and I have a lot of pan on this, and I really do still like this palette. So yeah, I mean, pretty much every day I would at least use this as a brow bone highlight or use one of the darker shades on the lower lash line. I mean, almost every single day I used at least one color from this palette, and I still like it. I'm not sick of it. It's still a good one. A lot of people added their own questions to this, so I just decided to add 2 more at the end, and one of them is the best drugstore eyeshadow palette, and for me that is the Milani Bold Obsessions. Sadly though, I do think they're discontinuing this, but a lot of people have been seeing these in TJ Maxx and Marshalls, and they're still for sale on the Milani website, but who knows for how long. This is such a good quality palette though. It performs like a high-end palette. You know, these shades here are super metallic. The mattes blend very, very well. These are $15. The last I saw though that they were on sale for $9 or $10. You know, I really wish Milani was not getting rid of this, because I have purchased one of their newer palettes and it is nowhere near as good as this, unfortunately. So yeah, but that one is absolutely amazing. And then the last question that I've seen a lot of other people do is the best discontinued palette. And for me, that is this Makeup Geek palette. This is the In the Nude palette. They got rid of this a while ago. However, these are individual eyeshadows. They are magnetic. You can pop them out of here. And they actually still sell a lot of these in their permanent range. They've switched to the square pans, but I've done a whole review on the new Makeup Geek shadows. If you're interested, I will link that in the description box. But I don't think the new formula is that different from the old formula, which is perfectly fine because I really love it either way. And yes, this is a fantastic palette. It's a bummer they don't sell it anymore, but Grandstand, which I've hit pan on, this is one of my favorite eyeshadows of all time. Luckily, they do still sell this one. Alrighty, that is it for this video. I love eyeshadow palettes. It's one of my favorite makeup categories. I'm late to doing this tag, but I'm glad I did it anyway. And if you want to, you can answer some of these questions in the description box. Tons of other people have done this video as well. That is it. Thank you so much for watching.